The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of translation devices. Director Sarah Chen stood alone on the circular platform, surrounded by rows upon rows of alien faces. Some had multiple eyes, others had no eyes at all, but every single one of them was looking at her with the same expression. Fear masked as disgust. The vote had just finished. The holographic display above her head showed the results in bright, merciless numbers. 791 species voted yes, only 56 voted no. The resolution was clear. Humanity was to be exiled from galactic society. Chen kept her face blank. She had expected this. The signs had been obvious for months. The whispers in diplomatic corridors. The way other ambassadors avoided sitting near her at meetings. The emergency sessions called without informing Earth's delegation. Still, seeing the numbers made something cold settle in her chest. Chancellor Vexthor rose from his seat at the high bench. The Arconian was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His voice boomed through the chamber, amplified by technology that made sure every species could understand him perfectly. The Galactic Council has spoken, Vexthor announced. Humanity has been found guilty of crimes against civilized society. Excessive aggression, refusal to follow established protocols, unauthorized weapons development, and the incident at Proxima Station where 23 Calarian citizens lost their lives. Chen's jaw tightened at that last part. The Calarians had attacked first. Everyone knew it. But the Council had decided that humanity's response was too extreme. Apparently, when someone tried to kill you, you were supposed to file a complaint, not fight back. Humanity will have 10 standard years to withdraw all presence beyond the Sol system, Vexthor continued. All colonies must be evacuated. All stations must be abandoned. All ships must return to Earth. After 10 years, a quantum barrier will be erected around your system. You will be sealed inside. Permanently. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some species sounded satisfied. Others sounded nervous. The quantum barrier technology was ancient and powerful. Once activated, nothing could pass through it. No ships, no messages, no light. Sol system would become a black hole in the galaxy's memory. Any human vessel found outside the barrier after activation will be destroyed on sight, Vexthor said, his eyes, all three of them, fixed on Chen. Do you understand these terms, Director? Chen took a deep breath. She had prepared a speech, a passionate defense of humanity's actions, a plea for understanding, an appeal to the minority who had voted no. But standing there, looking at hundreds of species who had just voted to imprison her entire civilization, the words felt pointless. Instead, she said simply, "We understand." Vexthor blinked, clearly surprised by the lack of protest. "You accept these terms?" "We understand them," Chen repeated. She looked around the chamber slowly, making eye contact with as many representatives as she could. "You want us gone? Consider it done." She turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, the chamber erupted in confused chatter. Several ambassadors called after her, demanding she acknowledge the formal terms, demanding she sign documents, demanding she show proper respect to the Council's judgment. Chen ignored them all. She walked through the massive doors and into the corridor beyond. Her security team fell in around her, their faces grim. None of them spoke until they reached the shuttle bay. "Ma'am," Captain Rodriguez said quietly. "What happens now?" Chen looked out at the stars through the bay's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, hidden in the dark between systems, humanity's backup plan was already in motion. They had known this day might come. They had prepared now, Chen said. Now we go home and get to work. The flight back to Earth took 3 days through conventional jump points. Chen spent most of it in her quarters, composing reports and messages. The Council would monitor everything she sent, of course. She was careful to sound defeated, resigned. She wrote about the logistics of evacuation, the difficulty of moving millions of colonists, the sadness of abandoning humanity's dreams of a galactic future. She did not write about the classified files hidden in her neural implant, the files that detailed a very different kind of future. When her ship finally approached Earth orbit, Chen felt something loosen in her chest. Home. Beautiful. Chaotic. Impossible Earth. The planet that every other species in the galaxy looked at with suspicion. Too much water, they said. Too much oxygen. Too many predators. What kind of species evolved in a place where almost everything wanted to eat you? The kind of species that learned to fight back, Chen thought. She went directly from the spaceport to the UN Emergency Council meeting. The room was packed with military commanders, scientists, and political leaders. Every face was tense. News of the Exile had reached Earth hours ago. There had been protests in major cities. Rage, fear, demands for war. Secretary General Okafor stood at the head of the table. He was an old man, but his eyes were sharp and angry. Director Chen, give us your assessment. Chen activated the holographic display. A map of known space appeared with human colonies marked in blue and the proposed barrier around Sol shown in red. They're not bluffing. The barrier will be real and impenetrable. We have 10 years to get everyone home. Can we fight? A general asked. Our fleet against theirs? No, Chen said bluntly. They outnumber us 1,000 to 1. In a straight fight, we'd be wiped out in days. Then we're trapped, someone muttered. Chen smiled then. It was not a nice smile. Only if we play by their rules. She changed the display. New markers appeared, scattered throughout unexplored space. Locations that official records said were empty. For the past 15 years, we've been building infrastructure in the dark zones. Areas the Council never bothered to map. We have hidden shipyards, research stations, supply depots. The colonies they know about are just the tip of the iceberg. The room went very quiet. Okafor leaned forward. You're saying we've been preparing for this? We've been preparing for the possibility, Chen corrected. Every species we met looked at us like we were dangerous animals. Like we needed to be controlled. We hoped we were wrong, but we prepared in case we weren't. She zoomed in on one location, a massive structure in the space between spiral arms, completely invisible to normal sensors. Project Exodus. We've been building it for 12 years. When the barrier goes up, the Council will think we're trapped in Sol. They won't know about the 10,000 ships and 3 million volunteers already out there, ready to build a civilization they can't see or control. A scientist raised her hand. What about the barrier? Won't it cut us off from those resources? The barrier surrounds Sol, Chen said. It doesn't surround our hidden bases. We'll have everything we need outside. Inside Sol, we'll have Earth and our main population. The barrier will make excellent cover for what we're really doing. Which is? Okafor asked. Chen's smile widened. Learning everything we can about Council technology while they can't see us. Building weapons they can't imagine, and waiting for the right moment to remind them why they were afraid of us in the first place. The meeting lasted 7 hours. Plans were made. Resources allocated. Messages sent through encrypted channels to agents scattered across the galaxy. By the time Chen left, her exhaustion had been replaced by something else. Purpose. She stood on the observation deck of the UN building, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Council was celebrating. They thought they had solved their human problem. Locked away the dangerous species. Made the galaxy safe. They had no idea what was coming. Chen whispered to the stars. You wanted us gone. Be careful what you wish for. The first year of exile passed in a flurry of activity that the galaxy watched with careful attention. Human ships began the long journey home from distant colonies. The Council had stationed observers at key locations to ensure compliance. They filed reports describing orderly evacuations and dismantled stations. What the observers did not report, because they did not notice, were the ships that never came home, the ones that disappeared into uncharted space. The cargo vessels listed as destroyed in accidents that left no debris. The research stations that exploded just before inspection, with casualty reports that no one could verify. Commander Jiang Wei stood on the bridge of the construction platform, designated Aurora Base. Through the viewport, he could see a sight that would have terrified the Galactic Council. 300 ships hung in the darkness between stars, their running lights dimmed to almost nothing. They were building something massive, something impossible. How long until the ring section is complete? He asked his chief engineer. Maria Santos looked up from her display. Another 8 months. The Council thinks we're in Sol system. They have no idea we're out here building a civilization. Jiang nodded. The Aurora base was just one of dozens of hidden construction sites. Humanity had scattered across the unexplored regions of space, setting up operations in places so remote that even the Council's extensive sensor network couldn't reach them. Dark zones. Empty space between the spiral arms. The massive voids where no one bothered to look. Any word from the Sol projects? Jiang asked. Director Chen reports they're ahead of schedule. The research teams are making progress on reverse engineering Council technology. Apparently the barrier isn't as secure as the Council thinks. Jiang smiled at that. The quantum barrier was supposed to be impenetrable, ancient technology that no species fully understood anymore. But humans had a habit of taking things apart to see how they worked, even when they were told not to. On Earth, Dr. James Okonkwo stared at the equations floating in the holographic display. He had been studying the quantum barrier specifications for 9 months. The Council had published the technical details as a warning, a demonstration of the prison they were building for humanity. But Okonkwo had found something interesting. The barrier worked by creating a quantum field that prevented any matter or energy from crossing. It was a wall between dimensions, completely impassable from inside or outside, except it wasn't completely solid. It had to allow certain particles through, or the space inside would collapse. And if those particles could pass through, then theoretically information could pass through. Not physical objects, but data. It's not a wall, Okonkwo muttered to himself. It's a lens. His assistant looked up. What? The barrier? It doesn't just block. It refracts, like light through glass. Okonkwo's fingers flew across the controls, adjusting the simulation. If we modulate the field at the quantum level, we could use it to observe outside without being detected. The Council thinks they're locking us in a dark box, but we could turn that box into the most powerful observatory in the galaxy. The assistant's eyes widened. We could see everything? Everything. Every ship, every station, every communication, and they would never know we were watching. Okonkwo sat back, a grim smile on his face. The Council just gave us the ultimate spy network. They just don't know it yet. The 5th year of Exile saw the last public human presence withdraw from Council space. The barrier was scheduled to activate in 5 more years. The galaxy began to relax. Trade routes that had avoided human space started using the shortcuts again. Species that had been nervous about humanity's aggressive nature breathed easier. On the Kalarian homeworld, Senator Krelzan gave a speech celebrating the successful exile. "We have removed a dangerous element from civilized society," he declared to cheering crowds. "The humans are gone. The galaxy is safe. 3 systems away, a human listening post recorded every word. The operators made notes in their files. The Kalarians had been particularly vocal about humanity's exile. They had demanded it, pushed for it, lied about the Proxima Station incident to make it happen. Those notes would be important later. The 8th year brought the first test of Okonkwo's discovery. The quantum barrier had been partially activated around the outer edge of Sol system. Earth's scientists had spent 3 years building the receivers and transmitters needed to exploit the barrier's properties. The equipment was delicate, experimental. If it failed, they would have wasted years of work. But if it succeeded, they would have eyes on the entire galaxy. The activation sequence began. Okonkwo watched from the control room, his heart pounding. Months of calculations and testing came down to this moment. The equipment hummed to life. Data began flowing across the displays, and suddenly they could see everything. Ships in the Andromeda trade lanes, council meetings on Vexthor Prime, private communications between ambassadors, military movements, research projects, personal messages. The barrier was refracting quantum data from across known space, and humanity's receivers were picking it all up. "My God," someone whispered. "It's like we're invisible spies." Okonkwo nodded slowly. The Council had meant to blind humanity, to cut them off from the galaxy. Instead, they had given humanity the most powerful intelligence network ever created. And the Council had no idea. "Start cataloging everything," Okonkwo ordered. "Ship movements, political discussions, trade routes. We need to know more about the galaxy than the Council knows about itself." The final year before full barrier activation was the quietest. Humanity seemed to accept their fate. The last few stragglers returned to Sol. The Council's observers reported no unusual activity. Everything appeared normal. Inside Sol, preparations reached their peak. The hidden bases outside the system sent encrypted updates. Their population had grown to over 4 million. They had completed 7 major stations and dozens of smaller outposts. Their fleet numbered 15,000 ships, all built with designs that improved on Council technology. And they had something else. Something the Council had never developed because they had never needed it. Faster-than-light drives that didn't use jump points. The Council's FTL technology relied on natural wormholes scattered throughout space. You jumped from point to point along established routes. It was safe, predictable, and completely traceable. Humanity's new drives created their own temporary wormholes. They could appear anywhere. Jump from any location to any other location. No routes, no predictable patterns. It made them invisible to the Council's tracking systems. On the day before barrier activation, Director Chen stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored displays showing both the Sol system and their hidden assets beyond. Everything was ready. Final status report, Chen ordered. The reports came in one by one. All bases operational. All ships fueled and ready. All personnel in position. The information network functioning perfectly. The new FTL drives tested and proven. Humanity was no longer a single civilization trapped in one system. They had become a scattered network of hidden communities, connected by technology the Council didn't know existed. They think they're sealing us in, Chen said quietly. They have no idea we've already escaped. The barrier activated at midnight Universal Time. The Council held a ceremony to mark the occasion. Speeches were made about safety and civilization, about the difficult but necessary decision to exile humanity, about the bright future ahead for the galaxy. On Earth, people watched through the barrier's lens as Chancellor Vexthor made his final statement. The human problem is solved. They are contained. We can now focus on building a better galaxy. Chen smiled coldly at those words. Around her, the command staff exchanged looks. They had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. The Council thought they had won. They thought humanity was trapped, defeated, removed from galactic affairs. They were wrong. Begin Phase 2, Chen ordered. Across the hidden human settlements, people received the same message. 10 years of preparation were complete. They had built a civilization in the dark. They had mastered technology the Council couldn't imagine. They had watched and learned everything about their enemies. Now came the hard part. Now came revenge, but not yet. First they would wait. Watch, learn even more. Let the Council grow comfortable in their victory. Let them forget that humanity was still out there, still dangerous. Then when the time was right, they would remind the galaxy why they had been afraid in the first place. Chen looked at the displays showing Council space through the barrier. Ships moving along trade routes, stations operating normally. A galaxy that thought it was safe. You locked us out, she whispered. But you forgot to check if we were already outside before you closed the door. That's going to cost you. All of you. 50 years after the barrier-sealed Sol system, the galaxy had nearly forgotten about humanity. Oh, the older species still remembered. Teachers still told children about the aggressive species that had been exiled for everyone's safety. But to most people, humans were ancient history, a problem solved long ago. The Galactic Council had grown comfortable. Trade flourished. Wars were rare and small. The Council's laws were followed without question. Chancellor Vexthor, now quite elderly, gave speeches about the golden age of peace that his decision had brought about. On the Calarian merchant ship Profitable Venture, Captain Zelkan was having a very normal day. His ship was hauling crystal processors from the manufacturing world of Telos 9 to the markets on Belarix. It was a standard route. Safe, boring, exactly the kind of trip that paid well and caused no problems. Approaching the jump point, his navigator announced. Coordinates locked. Jump in 30 seconds. Zelkan barely looked up from his inventory reports. He had made this jump hundreds of times. There was nothing to worry about in this part of space. Nothing dangerous. Nothing unusual. The ship shuddered as it entered the wormhole. For a moment, everything went white as they transitioned between normal space and the jump tunnel. Then they emerged on the other side. Except they didn't emerge at Belarix. Captain, the navigator said, her voice tight with confusion. These aren't the right coordinates. This isn't Belarix space. Zelkan looked up sharply. The viewport showed unfamiliar stars. The ship's sensors were showing readings that made no sense. They were in deep space, far from any known system, far from any help. What happened? Did we miss the exit? No, sir, we came out exactly where the exit should be. But it's like someone moved it. Or moved us. The navigator's hands trembled as she worked the controls. I'm trying to get our position now. Before she could finish, the ship's sensors screamed a warning. Something was approaching. Fast. But the sensors couldn't identify what it was. Unknown design. Unknown signature.
Unknown everything, shields up.
Zelkan ordered. Send a distress signal to... The words died in his throat. The distress beacon wasn't working. Communication wasn't working. Everything was being jammed by something they couldn't even detect properly. The unknown ship came alongside them. It was sleek and dark with lines that seemed wrong somehow. Aggressive. Predatory. Nothing like Council designs. Then a voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect Galarian. Profitable venture. Power down your engines. Do not attempt to run. Do not attempt to fight. You will not be harmed if you comply. Who are you? Zelkan demanded. This is a civilian vessel operating under Council protection. There was a pause. Then the voice spoke again, and this time there was something cold in it. The Council's protection ends where the Council's eyes can't see. Power down now. Zelkan looked at his crew. They were terrified. He was terrified. But what choice did they have? The ship was faster than theirs. Their weapons were jammed. Their communications were dead. Do it, he said quietly. Power down. The profitable venture went dark except for life support. The unknown ship attached to their hull. Zelkan could hear the airlock cycling. Someone was boarding. He expected pirates. Maybe slavers. The galaxy had those even in the golden age of peace. He did not expect what walked through his door. The figure was wearing an advanced environment suit with a dark faceplate. But the size was all wrong. Too tall, too broad-shouldered. When it removed its helmet, Zelkan's blood went cold. It was human. The human smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Hello, Captain. It's been a while since our people talked, hasn't it? That's impossible, Zelkan whispered. You're extinct. The barrier. You're trapped. No, the human said. We're free, and you're going to deliver a message for us. Over the next 6 months, 12 ships disappeared in Council space. All of them from species that had voted for humanity's exile. The Calarians lost 4 vessels. The Arconians lost 3. The others were scattered among different species, but the pattern was clear to anyone paying attention. The Council tried to investigate but found nothing. No debris, no bodies, no clues. The ship simply vanished from one moment to the next. Sensor logs showed nothing unusual. One moment a ship was there, the next it was gone. Until the 13th ship. The Calarian freighter Silent Prophet reappeared at one of the busiest space stations in Council territory. It came out of nowhere, dropping out of FTL in a way that shouldn't be possible. The station's security teams immediately surrounded it, weapons ready. But the ship wasn't trying to escape. It just drifted there, quiet and dark. When the security teams boarded, they found the crew alive and unharmed. Terrified but unharmed. And in the ship's cargo bay, they found something else. A message. It was written in Old Galactic Standard, the language of the first Council meetings. Written so everyone could understand. Carved into the metal of the bay wall with something that had melted through the plating like it was paper. You voted to exile us from your galaxy. We're building our own. Consider this your formal invitation to leave. The message was transmitted to every news outlet in Council space within hours. Panic spread like wildfire. Humans were back. Humans had escaped somehow. Humans were taking revenge. Chancellor Vexthor called an emergency session of the Council. The chamber that had once voted to exile humanity, now filled with frightened representatives demanding answers. How is this possible? Senator Krelzon shouted. He had been promoted since the exile, partly on the strength of his anti-human stance. Now he looked panicked. The barrier was supposed to be permanent. Unbreakable! The barrier is intact, Vexthor said, his voice heavy with age and worry. We've checked. Sol system is still sealed. Nothing has passed through it. Then where did these humans come from? No one had an answer. Admiral Thexvar of the Council Defense Force stepped forward. She was a Morvian, a species known for their military expertise. We need to assume the worst. That somehow humanity escaped before the barrier was fully activated. That they've been hiding out there for 50 years, building forces, preparing for this. Preparing for what? Someone asked. Revenge, Thexvar said simply. They're targeting species that voted for exile. The pattern is clear. They're making us pay for what we did to them. Then we fight, Krelzon declared. We find them and we destroy them, like we should have done 50 years ago instead of just locking them away. Vexthor raised a hand for silence. We don't know where they are. We don't know how many they are. We don't even know how they're moving through space without being detected. Every ship they've taken has disappeared with no sensor trace. No jump point activity, nothing. Which means they have technology we don't understand, Thexavar said. They've been advancing while we've been comfortable. This is a major threat. The Council argued for hours. Some wanted to mobilize the military immediately. Others wanted to try negotiation. A few suggested ignoring the message entirely, treating it as a bluff. None of them noticed that the message itself had been very specific about one thing. The humans weren't claiming they had broken through the barrier. They were claiming they had built their own galaxy, which meant they had never been trapped at all. Inside Sol system, behind the quantum barrier, Director Chen watched the Council's emergency session through the lens network. She was old now, nearly 90, but her mind was still sharp. She smiled as she watched them panic. They still don't understand, she said to her successor, Director Quan. They think we escaped. They don't realize we were already out before they closed the door. Should we correct them? Quan asked. No, let them believe what they want. Fear is a powerful weapon, and they're very afraid right now. The military fleet is mobilizing. 200,000 ships. They're going to search for our bases, Chen nodded. Let them search. They're looking for jump point signatures and conventional drives. They'll never find ships that can appear and disappear anywhere in the galaxy. What about the message? Were you serious about them leaving? Chen's smile faded. Partially. We can't conquer the Council. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, no matter how advanced our technology is. But we can make them understand that they made a mistake. That exiling us didn't solve their problem. It created a worse one. So what do we actually want? A new agreement. A galaxy where we're not under their rules. Where we have our own space, our own laws. Where species can choose which system they want to be part of. Freedom, Director Quan, that's what we want. That's what we've always wanted. Quan looked at the displays showing Council ships scrambling to organize. You think they'll give us that? Not yet, Chen admitted. First, we have to break their confidence. Show them they're not as secure as they think. Prove that their rules only work when everyone agrees to follow them. And we've already started that process. On the screens, Chancellor Vexthor was announcing a galaxy-wide search for human vessels, promising safety to all Council citizens, swearing that the human threat would be eliminated. Chen watched him with cold eyes. You had 50 years of peace, Chancellor. You should have enjoyed it while it lasted. The human fleet appeared without warning in orbit above Axiom 7, the neutron star that housed the Galactic Council chamber. One moment the space was empty. The next 50 ships materialized out of nowhere, their dark hulls reflecting the deadly light of the star below. Alarms screamed across every Council facility in the system. Defense platforms powered up. Military ships scrambled to intercept. News feeds exploded with panic. Humans. Here. At the heart of Council power, Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiant, watching the chaos unfold. He was younger than most of the human leadership, only 45, but he had spent his entire adult life preparing for this moment. Training in the hidden bases, learning to command ships that moved like ghosts through space. All ships report ready, his tactical officer said. Council forces are moving to surround us. Estimate 400 ships within weapons range in 10 minutes. Webb nodded calmly. Open a broadcast. All frequencies. I want every being in Council space to hear this. The communication channels opened. Webb's face appeared on screens across the galaxy. On military ships. On civilian stations. On personal devices everywhere, the Council couldn't block it. The human ships were transmitting with power levels that overwhelmed every other signal. My name is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Human Federation, he said, his voice steady and clear. 50 years ago you voted to exile us, to lock us away because you were afraid of us, because we didn't follow your rules, because we defended ourselves when attacked and you called it aggression. On the Council defense platforms, officers scrambled to jam the signal. Nothing worked. The humans had complete control of the communications network. You created rules to keep us in check, Webb continued. Laws that we had no voice in making. Standards of civilization that assumed your way was the only way. And when we wouldn't obey, you voted to make us disappear. Chancellor Vexthor watched from the Council chamber, his 3 eyes wide with shock and anger. How had humans gotten here? How were they broadcasting like this? The barrier was intact. Sol system was still sealed. Nothing made sense, so we left, Webb said. Not because you forced us, but because we chose to. You thought you were imprisoning us. But you never checked to see if we were already outside before you closed the door. That was your first mistake. The human ships began moving, not toward the council vessels, not away from them. They moved in patterns that shouldn't be possible, weaving through space in ways that violated known physics. Ships appeared and disappeared, phasing in and out of normal space. Your second mistake was thinking that 50 years of silence meant we were gone, Webb said. We weren't gone. We were building, learning, growing, watching you through the very barrier you thought would blind us. We've seen everything, every council meeting, every military plan, every secret, and you never knew we were there. Admiral Thexvar issued orders to her fleet. All ships weapons free. Target those human vessels and fire. The council fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human ships. It should have been overwhelming firepower, more than enough to vaporize 50 vessels. But the human ships simply vanished. One moment they were there, in the path of the weapons. The next they were gone. The attacks hit empty space and dissipated harmlessly. Then the human ships reappeared. Behind the council fleet, around it, above and below it. Everywhere at once. We're not here to fight you, Webb's voice continued. Not yet. We're here to deliver a message, and to prove something. At that moment, across council space, something happened that shouldn't be possible. The galaxy's communication network, the ancient system that connected every world and station, suddenly changed. Every screen, every display, every device, all of them showed the same thing. Human ships, not just the 50 at Axiom 7. Dozens of other vessels scattered across the galaxy, appearing at major stations, at trade hubs, at military installations, at the homeworlds of every species that had voted for exile. Nowhere was attacked. No shots were fired. But the message was clear. Humans could go anywhere, anytime, unseen until they chose to be seen. You can't find us, Webb said. You can't catch us. Your sensors can't track our ships. Your weapons can't hit us. And now, as you can see on your screens, we control your communications network. In the council chamber, panic erupted. Representatives shouted. Security forces rushed to protect important officials. Everyone was trying to understand how this was possible. We've had access to your network for 49 years, Webb explained. Since the barrier was activated. We've been watching, learning, preparing, and now we're inside your most critical infrastructure. We could shut down your economy right now. Stop ships from navigating. Collapse your supply chains. Disable your military coordination, all of it. With a single command. Chancellor Vexthor found his voice. This is an act of war. Webb's expression didn't change. No, Chancellor. This is what happens when you exile a species that never learned how to quit. When you try to cage the people who built their entire civilization on refusing to be controlled. You locked us out of your galaxy, so we built our own, and now we're offering you a choice. He paused, letting the moment stretch. Every being in council space was watching, waiting, terrified. Join us in a galaxy without your rules, Webb said, or stay in the prison you built for yourselves. Because that's what your system is, isn't it? A prison, a place where everyone has to think the same, act the same, follow the same laws that a few powerful species decided on thousands of years ago. You're not free. You're just comfortable in your chains. You're insane, Vexthor said, though his voice was shaking. The council has maintained peace for millennia. Our system works. Your system works for you, Webb countered. For the old species. The powerful ones. But what about the young races? The ones who don't get a vote? The species on the edges of council space who follow rules they had no part in making? Are they free? That question hung in the air. Because everyone knew the answer. The council was dominated by the oldest, strongest species. Younger races had less influence. Newer species had almost none. It was a hierarchy, not a democracy. We're not trying to destroy you, Webb said. We're offering an alternative. A place where species can make their own choices. Where you're judged by what you do, not how long your civilization has existed. Where questioning authority is encouraged, not punished. Anarchy, Krelzon spat. You're describing anarchy. We're describing freedom, Webb replied. And we're proving that you can't stop us. Look at your screens. Look at your systems. We're everywhere. We've been everywhere for years. And you never knew. How can you protect a galaxy when you can't even protect your own network? Admiral Thexvar had been silent, watching the tactical displays. Now she spoke quietly to Vexthor. Chancellor, he's right. They have complete access, Our entire military coordination runs through the communications network. If they shut it down, we can't fight. We can't even talk to each other effectively. Vex Thor looked old suddenly, exhausted. "What do you want?" he asked Webb. "We want you to understand that the galaxy has changed," Webb said. "You can't exile the problem anymore. You can't vote to make us disappear. We're here. We're powerful. And we're not going away. But we're also not interested in conquering you. We have our own space now. Our own civilization, built in the dark places you never bothered to explore. Then why are you here? To give you a choice, and to make sure certain species understand there are consequences for their actions." Webb's expression hardened. "The Calarians lied about Proxima Station. They attacked us, then claimed we were the aggressors. They pushed for our exile. They celebrated when it happened. They called for our extinction." Senator Krelzon paled. On screens across the galaxy, Calarian officials started to look nervous. "We're not going to genocide your people, Senator," Webb said. "We're not going to destroy your worlds. But we are going to make sure everyone knows what you did. And we're going to make sure you understand that actions have consequences. The ships we've taken? All Calarian. All belonging to companies that profited from our exile. Consider those ships payment for 50 years of lies." "You're pirates," Krelzon said weakly. "We're justice," Webb replied. "Something the Council forgot about when it became more interested in order than fairness. But that's changing now, because we're giving every species in this galaxy a choice. Stay with the Council and its rules, or come with us and be free. Some of you will choose safety. That's fine. But some of you will choose freedom. And those are the ones we want." Webb gestured and the human ships began to phase out of normal space. One by one, they vanished from sensors. But before they left completely, Webb delivered his final message. "You have 6 months to decide. The Council can stay as it is, but we're building something new out in the dark. A confederation of free species. No central authority. No imposed rules. Just beings who want to make their own choices. If you're interested, we'll find you. We're watching after all. We're always watching." The last human ship disappeared. The communication network returned to normal. But nothing was normal anymore. The galaxy had just learned that the humans they thought they'd locked away were actually everywhere. Invisible. Powerful. Watching. 6 months after Admiral Webb's ultimatum, the galaxy had split in ways the Council never imagined possible. Not with weapons or war, but with choice. The first species to leave Council space were the Torvani. They were a young race, only 200 years into space travel. The Council had granted them limited membership, which meant they could trade but not vote. When a Torvani delegation approached a human ship with a simple message, "We want to see what freedom looks like," the humans welcomed them. Within weeks, 3 more species followed. Then 5, then dozens. The Council tried to stop the exodus. They declared that any species leaving would lose all trade privileges, that they would be considered hostile, that the protective fleets would no longer patrol their borders. But the threats rang hollow. How could the Council protect anyone when humans could appear anywhere, anytime? How could they enforce trade restrictions when they couldn't control their own communication network? How could they threaten species who were choosing to leave? Director Sarah Chen, now 96 years old and confined to a wheelchair, watched the reports from her office on Earth. Behind the quantum barrier, humanity's homeworld had continued to develop. The barrier had never been a prison. It had been a shield, a way to hide their true strength while they built something new outside. Her successor, Director Kwan, stood beside her. 37 species have joined the Confederation so far. The Council is in chaos. Some of the older species are talking about military action. Chen smiled tiredly. Let them talk. They know they can't fight a war they can't even see. And they're afraid that if they attack, we'll actually destroy their infrastructure, instead of just threatening it. Senator Krelzon is calling for your head. Literally. The Calarians are demanding justice for the ships we took. Justice. Chen repeated the word with a bitter laugh. They demanded our extinction and called it justice. Now they want sympathy for losing some cargo ships. The irony is beautiful. A message alert chimed. Quan checked it and raised his eyebrows. Chancellor Vexthor wants to negotiate. He's requesting a meeting. Neutral territory. Just him and a small delegation. Chen considered that. He waited 6 months. He's not here to surrender. He's here because the Council is fracturing and he wants to stop it before he loses everything. Will you meet him? Yes, but not me. I'm too old for this now. And honestly, I'm too angry. Chen turned her wheelchair to face Quan. You go. You're the new director. This is your galaxy to shape now. But take Admiral Webb with you. He's the face of our strength. And bring someone else too. Who? Bring Dr. Okonkwo, the man who figured out how to turn their cage into our window. Let Vexthor see the 3 generations that brought us to this point. Him, you, and Webb. The past, present, and future. The meeting took place on a small station in neutral space, far from any major system. It had been abandoned for years, which made it perfect. No one to spy. No one to interrupt. Chancellor Vexthor arrived with only 2 guards and an aide. He looked ancient now, over a century old even in Arconian years. His shimmer skin was faded, his movements slow. But his eyes were still sharp. Director Quan waited with Admiral Webb and Dr. Okonkwo, 3 humans against 4 aliens. But everyone in the room knew who held the real power now. Thank you for meeting me, Vexthor said. His voice was tired. I know you have little reason to trust the Council. Or me. You voted to erase us from existence, Quan said bluntly. You celebrated when the barrier went up. You thought we were gone forever. So no, Chancellor, we don't trust you. Vexthor nodded slowly. I was wrong. The Council was wrong. We were afraid of you. You were so young as a spacefaring civilization, but so aggressive, so unwilling to follow the rules that had kept peace for millennia. We thought removing you would make the galaxy safer. And instead you created a problem you can't solve, Webb said. We're everywhere now, stronger than you imagined, and we're taking your people. Not taking, Okonkwo corrected, offering them a choice. There's a difference. Is there? Vexthor asked. You've destabilized the entire Council structure. Trade routes are disrupted. Species are leaving. The younger races are questioning everything. You're destroying thousands of years of carefully maintained peace. We're destroying thousands of years of carefully maintained control, Quan replied. Your peace came at the cost of freedom. Species followed your rules because they had no choice. Because you were older, stronger, more established. That's not peace, Chancellor. That's submission. Vexthor was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something surprising. You're right. The 3 humans exchanged glances. Webb leaned forward. Say that again. You're right, Vexthor repeated. The Council has become exactly what you say. A system that maintains itself because it's always been there. Not because it's the best system. Not because it's fair. We tell younger species to wait their turn. To earn their voice. But we never really give it to them, do we? We just keep them waiting forever. Then why did you vote for our exile? Quan asked. Because you scared us, Vexthor admitted. Humans don't wait. You don't accept things just because they've always been that way. You question, you push. You break rules to see what happens. And you're terrifyingly good at it. Within 100 years of discovering FTL, you'd match technology that took other species thousands of years to develop. You reverse-engineered our systems faster than we could keep secrets. And when we tried to limit you, you ignored us. So you decided to get rid of us, Webb said, his voice cold. Yes. And it was a mistake. Not because we were wrong about what you'd do, but because we thought we could stop it. We thought locking you in Seoul would end the problem. Vexthor gestured at the 3 of them. But you didn't just survive. You thrived. You built a civilization we can't even see. You turned our cage into a surveillance system, and now you're offering half the galaxy an alternative to us. What do you want, Chancellor? Quan asked. Why are you really here? Vexthor took a deep breath. To propose something that will probably get me removed from office. A compromise, a new structure. He activated a holographic display. It showed the galaxy divided into 2 regions. The Council maintains authority over species that choose to remain. Full authority. Nothing changes for them. But we formally recognize your confederation. We grant you territory. The dark zones, the empty spaces between arms, anywhere you've already established presence. Species can choose which system they want. And both sides agree not to interfere with the other. A divided galaxy, Okonkwo said. A free galaxy, Vexthor corrected, where beings can choose how they want to live. Some will choose security and structure. Others will choose freedom and risk. Both are valid, Webb shook his head. The Council will never accept that. Half of them still want to declare war on us. Which is why I need your help, Vexthor said. I can propose this structure, but I can't make the other Council members accept it. They need to understand they have no choice. That fighting you would be disastrous. That you've already won, and this is them accepting reality with dignity instead of being humiliated into submission. You want us to threaten them, Quan said. I want you to demonstrate your capabilities in a way that leaves no doubt. Show them that you could destroy the Council infrastructure if you wanted to. Prove that you're choosing peace, not being forced into it. Make them grateful for this compromise instead of resentful. The three humans looked at each other. It was a dangerous game. Push too hard and the Council might choose war anyway, damn the consequences. Push too softly and they'd never accept the deal. But it might work. We'll need guarantees, Quan said. Formal recognition of human sovereignty. No restrictions on which species can join us. Free passage for Confederation ships through Council space. And full disclosure of all Council military assets. Done, Vexthor said immediately. Anything else? The Calarians, Webb said flatly. They answer for Proxima Station, publicly. Full admission of what they did. And Senator Krelzon steps down. Vexthor hesitated, then nodded. I'll make it happen. They talked for another 4 hours, hammering out details. It wasn't perfect. Both sides made compromises they didn't like. But slowly a framework emerged. A way for the galaxy to split without breaking entirely. When it was done, Vexthor stood to leave. At the door he paused. Can I ask you something? Go ahead, Quan said. Did you know this would happen? When we exiled you, did you plan all of this? Quan smiled. We planned to survive. We planned to stay free. Everything else was just humans being humans. You try to cage us, we break out. You try to control us, we build our own system. You tell us we can't do something and we do it anyway just to prove you wrong. That's who we are. That's why you were always going to lose. Vexthor nodded slowly. Then we truly are fortunate you chose compromise over conquest. With your capabilities, you could have destroyed us. Probably, Webb admitted. But we learned something during our exile. Revenge feels good in the moment, but it doesn't build anything. We want to build a place where species like us, the ones who don't fit in your perfect order, can thrive. That requires cooperation, not destruction. Then I hope your Confederation succeeds, Vexthor said. Truly, the galaxy needs something different. It's been stagnant for too long. After he left, the three humans sat in silence for a while.